Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I'd love to tell you a fun story about my childhood. And I'd love to tell you fun stories about whenever I, was older than 18 years old, so no longer a child. But this podcast is going to be a little bit different than what we've been doing. This one's going to be a little bit shorter, to be frank with you guys. But we're going to go through our top 2, highlights from this past week. We saw each other, me and you, Bo. We got to spend a lot of time together as far as this weekend goes. So, like I said, it's going to be a little bit shorter, but Bo, I'd love to hear what your 2 highlights, let's do 2 highlights from this past week were.
And by shorter, you mean 50 to 70 minutes, because our last two were an hour and 19 minutes and an hour and 17 minutes.
Horrendous.
And that is not very loving of us to do that to our listeners. But here we still remain. And to be quite frank with you, those 2 episodes are some of our most listened to episodes. So, but here's why we're doing it shorter, is because we filmed loads of content this weekend for our subscribers. And so we've been filming, we've been working, we've got a ton of content coming out this week. We got a ton of more content we're filming this week, like Breck said. But since we're doing shorter, I'll go ahead and start. Monday, that's a joke. That's a joke because we're doing 2 highlights. But I was going to act like I was doing the whole 7 days, because we could be here for 50 minutes just from my 7 days, because it was so jam-packed with greatness. Here's some highlights, though. Number 1, I've got to shout out Hannah Powers Jean Baptiste and Joseph Jean Baptiste. These 2 were wedded in marriage to one another. They were united as one flesh the evening of May 17th. I believe that was the day. If today's the 19th, then they were wedded on the 17th of May. Was I a little offended that they didn't ask me to marry them, as in officiate their wedding? Maybe a little bit. But I thought the guy did good. And here's why it was a highlight. It was 2 incredible people, first off. 2 great people. And there were great people at it, as I'm certain you would know. I sent you, Brett, a picture with a couple of your small group leaders when you were growing up. And by proxy, they were, well, not by proxy, but I had them before you, to be quite frank. And so I hate to take the credit that I kind of raised them up in the ways of the Lord so they could teach you well. But I'm going to take that credit because, to be quite frank, everything you are has to do with the influence I've had on the people in your life.
Okay. I'll say this. We'll pause for a moment here. The 2 gentlemen that he's speaking of is Steve Brown and Scott.
What's his
and
last
goodness
name?
Gracious.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Scotty
my
boy,
point.
I forgot your last name, brother. It's been so long since I've seen you. Give me the last name.
Jordan.
Scott Jordan.
Those are 2
but
great
obviously they were tired of dealing with you, so they wanted to hang out with some cooler people.
There's no
and
doubt
they
about
came
that.
over and started teaching our Sunday school class.
There's no doubt
Scott
about
Jordan,
that.
my apologies. I
we can obviously see the lasting impact you've made on Brett's life.
Yes.
Shout out Scotty boy. But it was great to see everybody. We hit the dance floor. One of the interesting things is one of the random people I met there wasn't so random after all. I actually played tennis against him in high school. He beat me quite a few times, but it was great competition, great workout. But it's one of those high school matches where you think, oh, we're just playing in high school. But unbeknownst to me, I would see him 7 years later at a wedding where his girlfriend is a bridesmaid. And so that was cool. Got to shout out. Here's what I also found that night. Evan Bell. We know Evan Bell. I grew up with him. You grew up with him. One of my good friends growing up. Well, he shows up. I park the car in Harvard Yard. And he said, this is the second rental car, right? And I haven't had any personal conversations with Evan about the second rental car, so my mind immediately thinks and asks, are you a podcast listener? And he says, and his wife says, he hasn't missed an episode. And that just touched me. It really did. And so Evan's listening to this, and I'm just going to shout out Evan. Hey, man, keep up the great work. It was great to see you and your bride. It was really, truly, I just loved that environment. You know, you got to dance a little. You got to move your hips. They were doing Polaroids, and everybody was doing Polaroids. So I got a Polaroid with the DJ. I went behind the booth there, took a picture with the DJ, so they'll have it forever. Because to be quite frank, no one's taking pictures of the DJ. Let's be honest. They're not there to take pictures of the DJ. But it's our job to make sure they're included because they're such an integral part of the wedding. They really shape and form the vibe of the reception. It is their responsibility. And so he was great. He had that thing bumping. Second highlight, I've got to go. I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard to choose highlights because this week was great. And every week is great. But second highlight, your birthday's coming up on May 22nd, I believe. Is that right?
May 21st.
Ah.
So that's pretty embarrassing.
That's Tuesday. This entire time I've been thinking it was Wednesday. What's your last name?
Exactly. Exactly.
And so your anniversary was on Wednesday. Maybe that was a little bit of my confusion there, but maybe not. And Molly got you connected to a private club. And this could be one of your highlights of the weekend, in which case I'm going to steal it at this point in this juncture. Now, there's not to be said that we can't both have the same highlight.
That's right.
It's two different perspectives. So I think that's what's beautiful about it. But we go out there for your birthday to this private club, and everybody's been asking me, what's the club called? And this is where your perspective would help, because I have no idea what the club's called. And so I can tell you what the club is, and it was beautiful. And we were treated right. I mean, we were treated more than right. I would say we were treated unfairly in the best way possible. Right? We were not given fair treatment. We were given more than fair treatment. Hear me when I say that. Is we didn't deserve the treatment we got. We didn't even deserve to be on the course. In fact, I think the starter thought we didn't deserve to be on the course as well. And so it was just beautiful. We ended up playing 27 holes. And again, if our listeners aren't on Strava, I'd encourage you to get on Strava, because I shared a few documents of our time on the course there entitled 27 Holes of Bliss. And if you were to ask me how to define the time together in one word, that is how I would define it. Bliss. It was hot and steamy. There's no doubt about it. But if you view hot and steamy as a negative, you would not be taking into account the community you were with. And I was with a community of three brethren that have impacted my life in a positive manner. And not just alone in the time on the course, but on the ride there, on the ride back, as we're communicating the details beforehand. This was an all in all great time. There was no bad time, only good. And so if you were to ask me 2 highlights from my week, that is what I would answer with. Do you have any thoughts? Any follow-up questions?
No, I think it's great. I mean, one of my highlights is definitely going to be the golf on Saturday at the private club. So I will touch on that. But yeah, I mean, from everything you said, the wedding sounds like it was awesome. Sounds like only positives coming out of it.
And we've got 2 new listeners from the wedding.
You want to shout them out?
Yes. Michaela Green and Reagan Hyde. They are now listening to the podcast. They're likely listening to this one. And so
great.
We welcome you, and we want you to know that we're committed to deep and generous love. And you already knew that. Otherwise, you would not be listening to this podcast.
Exactly. No, that's incredible. That's great. I feel like on my end, it's so tough because I've been looking forward to this weekend for so long. You know, I feel like back in maybe February, March, you're like, hey, May 17th, what are you doing? And I think I replied back, I just took Thursday and Friday off, so you're coming down here, before even knowing what was up. So I just want to run through the whole weekend so badly, but we've put these limitations on ourselves. You know what I mean?
Hey,
it's so hard.
You put the limitations on, brother.
I did.
The limiter can unlimit. But that I would question your integrity. I would question your integrity.
That's fair. I'll say this. I'll speak in broad terms before I go into my 2 specific highlights. But some of my sub-tier highlights, getting Mexican food on Thursday night and eating with my family and you, was incredible. It's just great, just breaking bread together. We went to a coffee shop Thursday before we golfed. That was awesome. I got to do some work while a lady made cinnamon rolls right in front of me. So that's, you don't get to do that very often. That was a positive for sure. That's
basically your heaven on earth.
Oh, yeah. It was hard to focus. I was on a phone call, and she starts just kind of spreading out this, I think it's like a cinnamon butter that they put together. And my mouth's drooling, and I'm stumbling over my words, just kind of stammering. So it's certainly a positive. They had a great iced latte. Love it. Love it so much.
It's like if a musical composer were to attend a Johann Sebastian Bach symphony while also trying to learn how to write music.
Yes. Yeah, it was a lot going on. In layman's terms, there was a lot going on. But my top 2, man, it's so hard. But I think it's going to be both golf adventures. We played golf twice this weekend for a total of 27 plus 18 is 45. Right? Yeah. 45 holes of golf is a lot of golf. But we played on Thursday, we played with Alec Light. We played in the Abundant Home Collections. Rest in peace, Alec Light. We played in the Abundant Home Collections Memorial Tournament. Or it's the Alec Light Memorial Tournament sponsored by Abundant Home Collections.
Yes.
And so we've got a lot of content from that particular outing on our subscriber only. But I want to say this. Alec invited his younger brother, Aaron. Me and Aaron were on a team together. And let's just say, what's a nice way to say this? We kicked your brains in, kinda. You know what I mean?
I
We
believe
absolutely
you have
demolished.
short-term memory loss, actually, because you'll have the video evidence that we actually beat y'all.
So the front 9 holes, we were
Was a
playing best
warm-up.
ball. We were playing best ball. Okay. Best ball match play. We were up 4 at the turn. So Bo and Alec say, let's change the game mode a little bit. And we go to a 2-person scramble, which obviously, I mean, Aaron had been carrying me. You know, I think 1 or 2 of the holes I shot the same as him. So, you know, it didn't matter either way. But for the most part, he was carrying. And obviously in a scramble, that puts more pressure on me. And they knew that was, you know, they were going to have an advantage there. So it all comes down to the 18th hole. And I don't even know if I want to give it away because, you know, if people aren't subscribing and we're just explaining everything, then where's the fun in that? You think we should tell them what happened at the end?
Absolutely not, but we do need to shout out Alec Light. Again, he's not with us today, but we do want to respect and love him well, and we want to celebrate his life. And so,
Right.
Alec Light, we celebrate him.
Yes, even if it's posthumously. So yeah, that was my first highlight. It was just such a fun time. And then my second highlight is kind of piggybacking on what you already said. Got to go out and play it's the resort at Longboat Key is what it's called. So it's these skinny fairways with sand on both sides of each fairway. And if it's not sand, it's water. So you really, if you're not hitting fairways off the tee box, you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble. And it doesn't lead to, great scoring. I'll say that. So what we did is we got up Saturday, me, Andy, Todd, Bo, we all hop in the truck together. We drive to Chick-fil-A. We load down the truck with chicken biscuits. From there, we drive out to Longboat Key because Molly has a friend that she works with. Her name is Allie, and her father works in the pro shop there. And he said, look, you know, we can get you guys on for free. All you need is, you know, just tip the fellas that are loading your cart up with towels and waters and teas and things like that, and everything will be okay. I'm like, okay, I guess he's got us written down. You know, I go into the pro shop and, we kind of paid him off with some Chick-fil-A breakfast, to be honest. And he seems like a great guy. He says, locker rooms are this way. You can't buy any food because you're not a member, but, locker rooms are this way. There's, coffee, trail mix, things like that in the locker room if you'd like it. So, we take advantage of the amenities, of course. And we get out there and we go to the starter and he's looking at us. Look, we're all in our mid to late 20s. I mean, Bo, you're in your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
And he right away recognizes these guys are not the typical clientele. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can spot us from a mile away. And he's got this piece of paper that's got all the tee times on it. And he's like, what's your name? What time are y'all starting off? I said 9:36. Last name's Walters. He's like, I don't have you down. And in the back of my head, I'm like, Steve, what have you done? Steve, you set me up. And
It's
as a
practical
side note,
joker.
yeah, no, dude, that would be honestly being so savage. And I'll be honest, on the way down there, I kept talking about Steve, and Andy said, what's the guy's name? Scott? So you can imagine my confusion when Bo's talking about Scott Jordan and Steve Brown. And I've got 2 other Steves and Scotts in my head floating around. I'm trying to remember. I got 8 Steves and Scotts floating around in my head from the past, 48 hours. So once again, my apologies, Scott Jordan. But we get there, the starter's like, I don't have you guys on, you know? And I'm looking at his sheet, and I kid you not, his whole day, there's probably 7 foursomes marked throughout the whole day. The thing was empty. And I was like, yeah, I mean, Steve, and so I start just kind of like, once again, just like stammering, saying Steve Sullivan every once in a while, just praying that he's going to just let us go. And eventually he was just like, he pulled up his phone. He's like, all right, I'll get with Steve. He's like, y'all go ahead and tee off before somebody starts asking questions. I was like, oh my gosh, let's go. So I get up there. Everybody's taking their time. We're right in front of the starter. I'm like, freaking go. Everyone just hit your shot. Let's get away from here. Let's go, go, go. But no, we started off, and it was just, the course was immaculate. 27 holes, like I said. Steve in the pro shop, he's like, hey, man, you can play 18 if you want to, but frankly, this place is dead. Y'all can play the other 9, if you want to. So I said, I'll never turn down free golf. And free golf is what it is. So we went out there, we played 27 holes. We had a heck of a time. And I shook Steve's hand at the end of it and thanked him for it. And he asked how I shot. And I said, well, Steve, not too great. I'll be honest with you. I did not score well, but we had a blast. It was a hot day. I got some sun. I'm trying to think of if anything else happened. That was kind of really the crux of the whole situation. It was a little bumpy starting off there. Didn't think we were going to get through it, but I think we talked our way out of it, and they finally let us off. And once you're off on the course, you just act like you're a member there. You know what I mean? Besides driving around, not knowing where to go, you just act like you've been there 100 times and everyone believes you. So, but we had a blast. I want to shout out my wife for, the birthday present, and really just making it happen. So.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything to worry about. People do that all the time. And I was talking to people left and right today at church, and they're saying, yeah, you just pay off those cart guys. They don't really care. They're getting paid, and they're getting paid probably double of what they're usually getting paid from you. And so they probably appreciate the pro shop guy saying, hey, make sure you take care of those guys. But yeah, once you're out there, I mean, it's golf. They're not, unless you're playing, maybe unless you're at the Masters, right? People are generally, if you're nice, people are nice back. And if they're not nice back, so what? Leave the course. But I didn't envision that happening, especially with a kind guy like you interacting with a kind guy that was the starter out there.
Yeah. And he seemed to think it was an issue on their end as far as, maybe we called in a late tee time as members. Maybe we called in a late tee time. He's got a paper copy. He's like, we really need to go digital with this. But he's also an older guy. And he told me he's not going to learn a new system even if they go digital. So he was like, this thing's probably outdated anyways. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. You probably just forgot to put it on there. So old Steve, he didn't get us down, with the starter, but we paid off the cart guys and they took care of us, and we made it through anyways. So, but like you said, once you're out there, it's golf. You treat the place with respect, but really it was a beautiful course. A lot of holes looking out into the Gulf of Mexico, and then you get over to the other side into the Sound. And the course really kind of stretches the whole key, if you will. So, but yeah, it was a blast, a very fun time. And I think by the end of it, we were all sunburnt and totally dehydrated. So,
hey man, I applied I was proud. I put the most sunscreen I've probably ever put on my body. And if for our listener only audience, you haven't seen it for the past 43 weeks, but I am about as white as they come. And so you have to apply a lot of sunscreen on my body if I don't want to get burnt. And I learned at the Memorial Tournament, even if you apply multiple times, it's still not enough. So when we were out there on Saturday, man, I was every 4 holes just lathering myself in as high SPF as I could find. And here's what's beautiful is the course, the locker room had sunscreen for you as well. And so they want to take care of your body because, my friends, without sunscreen, too much exposure to sun on our skin is not good for us. I'm telling you, we will develop skin spots, and it just takes a little bit of lotion or spray. Yet it's such an inconvenience for us, at least for me. And so I've got to be better personally, and I'm on a journey to become better. That's just a small confession of the night.
No, dude, I think I'm right there with you. I think I'm right there with you. Like I said, I put on more sunscreen than I have maybe ever. As a kid, my mom and, grandparents used to lather me down, get the stick, the sunscreen stick all over my face. Gosh, I hated it. So now I just get the spray and just go over the face and the neck and everything. But yeah, you saw me. I put it on 2 or 3 times. My wife told me to do that, and I gave her my word that I would. So I did it. And I still got a little, I was still a little stingy in the shower yesterday. So I'm glad that I heeded her advice. She's a smart lady. And that's why, that's why I'm married to her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the UV that day was 12 to 14 at its
nuts.
peak. And if you know anything about UV, you know that's high. And that's about the extent I know of UV. But I'll tell you, man, it was just a great day. Same thing, like you said, with the golf. Now, an honorary mention, if you'll allow me, because you had sub highlights. I'm going to count this as a sub highlights. You and I went to Goodwill together, and we found some great items. I came into possession of a Nike TPC Sawgrass mock neck short sleeve shirt and a couple of others, but I think that was the find. That's probably the best thing I've found at Goodwill. The most valuable piece to me I've found at Goodwill personally.
Yeah, shout out Goodwill. They don't take large rugs, though. In case anybody out there is planning on taking a large rug, they will let you unload it, and then they will come out and say, we don't take large rugs. Take it back to your vehicle.
I had a large rug, like I was military pressing the thing up above my head out of the truck, out of the bed of Brett's truck, and this man walks out. We don't take large rugs. We don't take large rugs. And I'm just standing there. Like, I have no idea what you just said. This thing is 50 pounds above my head. And so that was tough, but we disposed of it in a legal matter, I believe. Maybe it was illegal at the time.
Dumped it off the Ringling Bridge.
Onto a boat. Excuse me, do y'all take large rugs?
Well, too bad. Oh, well, Bo, do you want to give us a little look forward to what the listeners have to expect next week?
Yeah, well, let me tell you. If you're subscribing, you're gonna get an insight. You're gonna get to follow along the Alec Light Memorial Golf Tournament sponsored by Abundant Home Collections. If you're in the Sarasota/Bradenton area, get connected to Abundant Home Collections in honor of Alec Light. If you're not subscribing and you're just listening, you're gonna get to hear from a couple of close friends of ours, what we would call the inner circle. Everybody has a group of friends they consider tight. And for us, this is that group of men and women. And we're going to sit down with them, ask them some questions. And maybe we're going to add this to a poll or a song and response, a question and response to our Spotify episode. So if you have any questions you want us to ask, feel free to drop those in there or just reach out to us. And we'll be happy to include those, barring they are vetted by Rodrigo. And so we have that to look forward to. And then again, if you're a subscriber, if you remember, we had our March Madness Bracket Tournament Challenge, and the winner won a full body bacon grease massage. And so we're going to be filming that this week. And I'm telling you, if you just want to pay for 1 month, honestly, it's going to be worth it. Cancel afterward. But this is going to be worth it, my friends. It's going to be pretty special. So we have a few tricks up our sleeve. Don't tell, not the masseuse, we're the masseuse, but the person being massaged. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And while we're doing the massage, we're also going to be asking questions. And it's going to be a dynamic episode. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you teed it up perfectly, and I think everyone's mind is probably racing right now. So, like you said, if you want to just get the subscription for 1 month, totally understand. But this video is going to be incredible. So,
and I will say, the person we are massaging is a male. I think we'd have to create some guidelines if it was a female. I wouldn't want our listeners and subscribers to be uncomfortable. But now that we know it's a male, I want you to feel comfortable in what you're going to be seeing.
All bets are off now.
And so if you're not going to subscribe and you're just going to go gossip about it, hey, did you see what Brett and Bo are doing? They're massaging some random person with bacon grease. I don't want anybody's mind to be thinking we're bringing in a woman and we're going to ask her to take her shirt off so we can massage her with bacon grease. That's not what is happening. We are asking a man to take his shirt off so we can massage him with bacon grease.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, do you want to do a song of the week?
Yes, I do. My song of the week is Hidden by United Pursuit and Will Reagan. It's part of a greater album called The Simple Gospel, written and produced. Well, it was released in 2015. I'm certain it was written before that. But really, the entire album is great. That's just one song off of the album.
There you go. Well, my song is Eastbound and Down. I was listening to that song. So the version I listened to is by Midland. It's a cover, obviously, of the original. But I was watching Smokey and the Bandit a little earlier today, and so that one's been kind of running through my mind. So we'll go ahead and add both of those to the collection, and we'll keep rocking onto it.
Yes. Any parting thoughts? Any closing comments?
No, I think next week it's going to be dynamic. I think the subscriber-only content is going to be awesome. But I think even just our regular episode with the interviews with different people is going to be special. We're going to get a lot of different perspectives on life and many other cultural worldviews. So you guys really need to make sure you tune in next week. Yeah,
and I'll just tease it a little bit. One of our interviews is going to be coming. This person grew up in one of the most dangerous suburbs in South Florida. And if you listened a couple episodes back, you would know exactly what that is. And we're going to get to experience his story. And Brett and I know his story, but I'm telling you, it's a powerful, powerful story of transformation.
It is. He made it out. and it's I won't go into it. I'll let him tell his own story, but it is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. And listeners, if you haven't subscribed and you want to, there is not going to be a better time. Well, I hope there is going to be. I hope we continue to produce great content, but I'm telling you, as of right now, this could be one of our greatest subscriber-only episodes coming up. And so get excited, my friends. It's going to happen, and it's going to be great. As always, you can also buy merch. If you don't want to purchase anything with your money, though, please share this podcast. Please review this podcast. We do this because we want to love you, and we want to love the community and the world deeply and generously. And by you rating and reviewing, it boosts our podcast in the rankings. And rankings aren't everything, but rankings help you get discovered, and discovery leads to next steps, and next steps leads to more people committed to deep and generous love. And so with that, we love you deeply and generously, and we're going to see you in 7 days.